What's going on, guys? Welcome in to the Blazers Uprise Postgame Show. Boy, is it good again to be able to say those words. We are back on another postgame stream over here on Blazers Uprise Live for the preseason, and we'll be switching over to Blazers Uprise once the regular season rolls around. Today, we witnessed some very decent basketball considering it's the first preseason game out of the offseason. We saw Harry Giles put on a great performance against his old team. That was awesome to see. Derek Jones Jr. looked good. Dame had some Dame-esque moments. CJ McCollum looked a little bit hefty, but got going there in the second half. We'll talk about him. We'll talk about every player we saw tonight. We got to see basically every player on the roster, including CJ Elebee, as well as Dame's cousin, Kelvin Blevins. So we can talk about literally, I don't even know if I said that last name right. Blevins? Did I say Blevins? Blevins, yeah. So we'll talk about every single player on the roster that played tonight. Initial takeaways from this game, Eric, is, dude, okay, this roster that we put on the floor tonight seemed pretty deep, right? And then you remember we didn't have Yusuf Nurkic. We didn't have Rodney Hood. We didn't have Zach Collins. So, dude, this team is so deep. Giles looked great tonight. You had some players struggle that you probably won't play, as bad as they did tonight. Cantor is kind of the most notable one. He struggled, but, we know what we can get out of Cantor, so I'm not really worried about that. That's not really a guy I'm paying attention to this preseason. I'm paying attention to guys like Giles, who looked great. Derek Jones Jr., who looked really, really good. Robert Covington looked, basically gave us exactly what we're expecting. I'm super excited about this team. This preseason game didn't do anything to dampen my expectations whatsoever. Obviously, it's one preseason game, so not try to overreact, but we're going to have some fun and break this down.
We had, three practices, I think?
3 practices, yeah. So we'll talk about a couple of different scheme things we saw today, a couple of different things that I liked. And we'll get into kind of the coaching aspect and some of the things Terry Stotts might have showcase tonight, a little preview of stuff that might be to come. Here's the thing, coaches in the preseason, there's kind of a balance, right? You want to work on stuff, but you don't want to give too much away so that you can be game planned for on opening night. That opening night game is against the Jazz, and it's going to be an important game because it's a team that will be in the Western Conference playoff picture. It could easily come down to a 1 or 2 game difference between us and the Utah Jazz, and that means that this game matters. So you don't want to give too much away, but I did see a couple different things that I liked from the team tonight in terms of a set that they ran, in terms of the pick and roll defense and that type of stuff. But before we get into that, what's just your initial takeaway, initial reaction from this game, Eric?
My main takeaway is I think we're just going to have to outscore teams. And I think we have the roster to possibly do that. But I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of these games where it's some high-scoring affairs. Let's just put it that way.
That was not my takeaway at all. I'm a little bit surprised by that. I mean, you had Cantor starting, right? And here's the thing, Cantor is best used in drop coverage, right? When it gets to him hedging screens and that type of thing, he's not as good, which, I still don't want us to completely 100% drop Cantor 100% of the time. I want to give offenses different looks no matter what, but it seemed okay, kind of playing up on screens a little bit more is something that they were doing and something that's going to be the philosophy, and Cantor isn't that good at that. So, you put Nurkic in there. I think Nurkic is much better at that. I think Nurkic is underrated at that. So, that's kind of where it starts. And then, honestly, I feel like the biggest issue was, A, it's preseason, so the defensive intensity wasn't 100% there. And then, B, guys are rusty, so backside rotations were a little bit slow. There were stretches where the rotations were good, and we played really solid defense, I thought. So it's I don't come from this game. That wasn't really my reaction. We had stretches where it was dang, our defense kind of looks like last year, but we had stretches where we played better defense than we did pretty much any time last year. You know what I mean? So that's the thing is I still can't get a good feel for how good of our defense is going to be. Covington didn't seem to be playing too hard on defense. He's a veteran and it's preseason, so But like Derek Jones Jr., I thought had some good possessions. Dame had some good possessions, and you get Nurkic in there with that starting lineup. That starting lineup should be a good defensive team. So I guess it kind of comes down to the bench and how well they play on that end.
And I'm not saying it can't improve. Like I said, they've had 3 practices to work on stuff, so I wasn't expecting like lockdown defense or like new schemes already implemented and all that stuff. But my other takeaway is that the Kings suck. I don't know if they're going to be. They're going to be near the bottom of the West, fighting with OKC. Maybe they're probably a little better than OKC, but probably in that 14th spot.
Let me just say this: they did shoot the ball well. They hit some contested threes. You had Corey Joseph hitting some contested, difficult shots. He had one most notably over Anthony Simons, who had a really good defensive possession, and Corey Joseph just hits this fadeaway. Corey Joseph, shot really well tonight. You had guys that hit some contested shots. So, part of it is, okay, was it good defense or was it poor defense that led to a player making that shot? I thought there was a lot of possessions where we played solid defense, had a good contest, and guys knocked down shots. So, last year it was like we let teams get so comfortable that it didn't matter if we were contesting them or not just because our defense was so soft. But this year, I think it's going to be more of a debate okay, was the other team just hot tonight, or was it us struggling on defense? Because I don't think our defense is going to be bad this year. I definitely stand by that. And, we only gave up 102 points.
Yeah, second half was better. It got into garbage time at the end.
Yeah.
But they shot 53s.
Yeah.
They only made 16 of them.
It was a fast-paced game, too.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah, the second half was better. That's the thing. First quarter was when they were playing, their best lineups, and they did shoot the ball well, and we kind of struggled to get back in transition. But I think it's encouraging that throughout the game, we improved defensively. For whatever reason you want to chalk that up to, I thought our rotations were a little bit faster and we weren't making as many defensive mistakes. So, I'm not discouraged by our defense whatsoever. Derek Jones Jr. and Robert Covington on the floor is so nice given what we went through last year, given the defense we had to deal with last year. You had a couple, just the way they contest threes is different. I don't even know how to explain it, but they just contest threes better. There was multiple shots from the perimeter that Robert Covington or Derek Jones Jr. almost blocked, and they forced them into misses. We didn't get that last year. Last year, even if we were contesting, they were still getting off pretty clean looks because we weren't contesting well, if that makes sense. We weren't, really... It's kind of hard to explain. You know what I mean? It's just the way those two guys contested threes was just different. And I don't even know how to explain it. You had a couple plays where it was Derek Jones leaving his guy to go contest a three. That was impressive. Last year it was kind of okay, well, I'm not... This is kind of the attitude I felt occurred last year. You had guys on defense that was okay, I'm not going to let my guy score. Even if I should go and leave my guy and try and contest a shot from somebody who's open, I'd rather just let them shoot an open three than to leave my guy. And it led with people shooting open threes. You had multiple plays tonight where it was Derek Jones Jr. would leave his guy and go contest a three from somebody else. There was a play specifically, he was guarding the man in the corner and the guy up court, free throw line extended on the wing, got the ball and was launching a three, and Derek Jones Jr. covered ground like that and contested that shot, forced a miss. Just plays like that had me encouraged. Defensively, just having those two guys. Yeah, dude, those two guys in the lineup. And then I want to see those...
He can make up for being out of position really fast. So that's one thing. A lot of our players in the past have been kind of slow-footed in reaction time, but that guy, even if he's out of position, can get back on his guy within a second. That's crazy.
Yeah. And then I just want to see those two guys with Nurkic on the floor because Nurkic's defense I think is overrated across the league, and he's going to be a better defender than Cantor. And I also want to see those two guys play with Terry Giles. That's a fun lineup. I want to see a Dame. I don't know if we saw this tonight, but Dame, Trent, Derek Jones Jr., Robert Covington, and Harry Giles would be a really fun lineup. That's kind of a mix and match with starters and a couple bench guys, but I think our defense will be fine. I'm encouraged that Stotts was trying something different. I'm encouraged that we didn't just see drop scheme all game, and that's been rumored this preseason that they're going to play more aggressive defense and hopefully switch things up a little bit more. And the fact that we saw some hedging, it was nice. kind of worried if we just ran drop scheme all game, first preseason game. But that's not what we did.
Yep. I really liked when we pushed the pace more too.
Yeah, we did get some runouts, did get some easy buckets, and that's the thing. Like, we are a half-court team, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't look for good looks in transition. If you don't get a good look in transition, you can always fall back to a half-court offense. And I thought, last year we were too content just walking the ball up the floor. We still had a great regular season offense, but once the playoffs roll around against a team like the Lakers, they play stifling half-court defense, right? So you got to be able to get out and run and get easy buckets in transition just to put enough points on the board because of the way that team defends in the half court, and we were struggling a bit with our half court offense in that first round series, so we couldn't match the points that those guys could put on the board. So yeah, I mean, I definitely hope to see us consistently try and run out, leak out, and get out in transition.
And we have to Derek Jones Jr., we have to take advantage of that speed and athleticism. Like, if we're slowing the ball up, that's like a travesty to his game, because I did like, especially with the starters. So you had Derek Jones, Rocco. Whenever they got the rebound, Dame was just going down the court. He wasn't even coming back for the ball. He would just let them bring the ball up. And between those two, we got Trent and Melo, who can, easily bring the ball up. Hood can do it when he comes back. Giles showed that he can dribble the ball up the court too. CJ, of course, can. That's like, almost everyone except for your two big guys that can grab a rebound and bring the ball up and start the offense without having to waste time having Dame come back, get the ball, and go down the court. So that's going to be just naturally pushing the pace like that, where you get a rebound from Derek Jones Jr. and all of a sudden we're in the front court already, setting up a play in offense instead of waiting until 10 seconds are left on the shot clock or whatever. So
yeah, and here's the thing with Giles, man. For everything that he did tonight, we didn't really get to see his passing. He is a good passer, and he can handle the ball. So that's the thing. Is that's a guy that can get a rebound and actually push the pace himself without having to find a guard to outlet the ball to, and he can actually make some pretty impressive passes. He can be you would rather get it to a guard to push the pace, but for a backup center, man, he can be a setter that can grab and go and push in transition and make the right pass in transition. So that's the thing, is we're built to run. Carmelo, when he's on the floor, probably isn't going to run, but you don't need all five guys on the floor running fast break offense, right? Melo would be great as just trailing the play, stepping into a three at the top of the key. You know what I mean? You can run with Melo on the floor. You can run with Cantor on the floor. You can run with a couple guys that aren't your typical, floor runners, so to say. That's kind of the mistake that we heard last year, was fans would say, oh, well, we don't have the personnel to run. I kind of disagreed with that. You don't need five guys that are able to run the floor. It helps by having, Giles in the game at center instead of Cantor. Yeah, that helps you run the floor for sure. But I think no matter what lineup we put out there, we can get some good looks in transition. We can get some good fast break buckets. And then if those aren't there, we fall back to our half court offense, and then we make things go from there. So that's something that I also noticed that we were pushing the pace a bit, and it was encouraging, and I felt like it kind of helped us build a rhythm. And I hope to see that in the regular season for sure.
Yeah, I thought when the second unit came in, we weren't running for some reason. I was getting frustrated because we were slowing the ball up, and it wasn't happening. And then we started struggling, and they got back in the game a little bit in that second quarter before, the right players came back in and they started pushing it again. But yeah, just the second unit needs to run. There's no excuse for them playing slow. They have guys who can run. You said, Melo can play in either style. And we already got people in here why haven't you mentioned Melo's awesome game yet and stuff like that.
We literally haven't gotten to individuals yet.
Yeah, we'll get to individual players. And besides, everyone knows Melo is capable of what he did tonight. He had a great game. I mean, that's Melo. It's fine. We'll talk about it, but it's not something that we don't expect. He played really well, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, here's how we do our post-game streams. For those of you who are new, welcome in to your first post-game stream, because I feel like there's probably some people that haven't watched a post-game show of ours. So for those people, this is how we generally do it. We start off the game talking about, like, if this was regular season, we talk about kind of the progression of the game, but since, like, the final result doesn't matter, we don't really need to. And then we talk about, some team-based things that we struggled with, that we did well and whatnot, and then we get into individual plays. So that's why we've been talking about, some of the takeaways we can gather from the way the team as a whole played today. But I'm down. Do you have anything else that you want to mention based on like how we collectively played?
Yeah. If we pass the ball, we're unstoppable. Like, and I'll continue to bring that point home. Like, I don't give a crap what the numbers say. Like, oh, if you average a certain amount of assists, it doesn't mean you're a good team. That's bullcrap when it comes to this team. It is like a proven fact when they move the ball, especially around the perimeter, and swing it across and make 2 or 3 passes around the perimeter to the open guy in the corner. It is like an unstoppable play because you can't both put so much defensive pressure on Dame and guard all 5 guys. So like there are times where we just get like stand around and don't. I'm hoping we just learn that if we just share the ball, like we don't have to go one-on-one as much. We don't have to do that stuff with this team. You saw that several examples where we did that and got a wide open 3 or a cut from someone that resulted in a layup or dunk. And I just hope we continue to do that and see that like every time when we do that, like it results in a good thing. Like I don't see why we would ever even need to go to like isolation or pounding the ball for 10 seconds. Unless like it's like a situation late in the game where you need a bucket and it's a half court situation, fine. But like throughout
or
the
if
game,
CJ's hot, if CJ's hot and he's hit like 3 buckets in a row, I'm okay. Like just giving him the ball, seeing if he can ride that hot streak. But yeah, far too often that was like our default offense. Our default offense needs to be moving the ball like we did tonight because we got good shots every time we move the ball well. That's the thing. It's like you can watch and you can see better shot selection when we move the ball. Like we got great shots every time we zip the ball, we move the ball. Dame draws 3 guys, makes a pass out, the defense rotates to there. Make the quick extra pass, move that ball because somebody's going to be open at the end of that, and it gets the defense scrambling. CJ had a shot. I don't know if he made the shot or not, but CJ had a shot where there was good ball movement beforehand. The ball got skipped to him and he wasn't like immediately guarded, so somebody was running out at him really hard. The defense was in scramble mode, and because they were in scramble mode, hard on the pump fake. CJ just pump fake. The guy was trying to get out there super quick and just ran right past CJ. CJ took one, stepped into a completely wide open 3-point shot. That's an example of good ball movement. Yeah, I don't know why. I'll wait for it. Yeah. All right. So I think we're good. Yeah. Lag spikes will happen, but they shouldn't be as bad as. We gotta wait. Why are we lagging? I'm literally plugged in.
Yeah, I can hear you, so it's not.
Comcast, man. I don't know. We're kind of coming back and then lagging out. Very frustrating. It might be Comcast, I'm not sure.
Well, why can I still hear you then?
Yeah, it might be like it might be a bandwidth issue or something, I'm not sure. But we haven't had these issues in a while. Oh, what now?
I think we're back.
Are we back? Yeah, sorry about the lag. We haven't had lag issues in a while. Because I'm now hardwired. Last season I was running off Wi-Fi, so we had issues a lot more. Now I'm hardwired, plugged in and everything, so I don't know why it happens, but it happens every now and then. This is the first time we've dealt with lag issues in like a month. We haven't had lag that bad in a month. So, yeah, shouldn't be much of an issue this year, but every now and then, I can't control that. We will lag out here and there. Thank you for riding it out with us. The point I was making, I kind of forget. It was about ball movement, and basically just the overall point, I just want to see this team move the ball. Like Eric was saying, this team gets great shots when they move the ball, and I feel like it helps our rhythm. I feel like players shoot with more confidence when they're, catching the ball. They know they're open because the ball's moving well, and, I don't know. I feel like we shoot better on open shots when the ball moves beforehand. Whereas if we're stagnant and we get an open shot, we don't quite shoot as well. I feel like good ball movement helps really build a rhythm within the offense that players benefit off of when they're shooting the ball. Do you guys get that feeling as well, or is that just me? Eric, do you get that feeling, or am I just imagining things?
No, I completely agree with that, and that's why I never agree with people who say assists don't correlate to wins. First of all, there's a difference between ball movement and actual assists. And second of all, you just watch plays tonight where we move the ball around. There was even Melo's, we'll get to individual people, but Melo's first play of the game, he posts up, gets an immediate double team, which speaks to my whole how he has gravity thing, right? This guy comes in off the bench and gets an immediate double team in his 17th season in the year, whatever it is. That's a good thing to have. Whether what you think about Melo or not aside, anyone who can command that much respect on offensive end is a useful weapon. And so I forgot what happened, but he passed out. And then we swung the ball around, and he ended up getting a wide open three in the corner because we passed the ball around. And he's shooting the three well again tonight. I like Melo as a spot up 3-point shooter. I really like it a lot. Of course, if you're gonna post up Melo and they're gonna give him those mid range shots and give him 2 or 3 feet of space, sure, give it to Melo all day and let him work it there, because that's his bread and butter, and that I don't know why they weren't playing more up on him. They were in the second half, I guess. But it's a great game for Melo. So we'll talk more about him in a minute. But
I want to start with the starters. Do you have any more team takeaways? I'll let you. I know you got your notepad, man. Eric takes notes, so I always love just being able to toss it to him, and he's ready because he has the notepad. You see him looking down at it right now. What you got next on that notepad?
Pretty much got to most of it. I don't like. I felt like too much today. We were standing around still off ball, especially when we run pick and roll. I don't like just standing around in the pick and roll. I like the other players actually moving and doing stuff too. I don't like to just be watching whoever has the ball.
Yeah, I'll bring up the clipboard real quick because I already got it ready. So this is something that Golden State does pretty well. Let me try and get it. There we go. All right. Cool. There we go. So this is something that Golden State does really well. When you're running a pick and roll, we don't even need defense in here to showcase this, but something very, very simple to do is if you're running a pick and roll here, it doesn't even matter which side the screen is on, if it's on strong side or if it's on the weak side, where it doesn't matter which way, just have these two guys. It would be better if it was like this, if this is CJ, while this pick and roll is happening, have this guy set a down screen for CJ, and maybe the defense gets mixed up, and then as this guy rolls, if this is Derrick Jones Jr., you don't necessarily want him to go into the space, but this is just something simple that's really easy to do. Maybe the defense switches. Maybe they both go with CJ and then Derrick Jones Jr. is wide open for a lob or something like that. It doesn't hurt, doing this. Instead of just standing here, just set a down screen and just to get some movement and keep this defense honest. Honestly, a lot of times, this is what it's going to look like. Let me get this. I don't know, we got 2 basketballs. This is what it's going to look like a lot of times. You're going to have CJ's guys sagging in here. So a lot of times it might be screening down like this, which it can kind of clog this up, but if you're running it over enough, it just, it creates a skip pass there or something like that. That's something that the Golden State Warriors do well with Steph running pick and roll and Klay kind of sitting behind there, because a lot of times what will happen is this shooting guard will come in here and try and clog this up anyway, but he'll be watching the ball. He won't be looking here. He won't be looking at the shooting guard. So if you can get a screen behind here and you can get CJ moving up to here and Dame can make that pass, that skip pass, that's a wide open shot, and the shooting guard is going to get picked off. They're not going to be able to contest that. So just little things like that. There's other movement that you can utilize off ball while the pick and roll is being ran. It doesn't have to be that. There is other creative movement that you can utilize to keep these defenders from completely like clogging up this pick and roll. That's basically the goal. You're not even necessarily trying to get these guys a shot. You're just trying to keep these defenders honest and keep them worried about the players off the ball so that they can't completely come in here and completely like clog up this pick and roll and make things hard, so that you have more space for Dame. And then once this is Nurkic, they're great at the pick and roll. You want to give those guys as much space as possible. You don't want these defenders coming here and clogging that up. So a little bit more off-ball movement off of that would keep these defenders a little more honest and potentially keep them from coming in there and completely clogging that up.
And then something Miami does well, they don't even necessarily set picks sometimes. It's just like if you're in the corner, and your guy turns around, you just relocate a little further up the line, the three-point line or something. And then when he turns around expecting you to be in the corner and the pass goes to the like elbow line extended or something, if you're talking about the small forward there, then like it takes an extra second to get out on him and you get that much more of an open shot. So it doesn't even have to be like anything complex. It just don't stand there flat-footed while the rest of the offense is going on.
Yeah, and we don't even need these defenders to showcase that. I'll just show you exactly what it means. In case you guys are confused, let's just say this is Dame. The ball is Dame coming off this pick and roll. A lot of times if this guy's up here, a lot of times this guy will like step in, right? And he's prepared if the ball gets passed out from Dame to like a guy like Covington, say this is Covington, he's prepared to run back there. So if he turns his head to step towards Dame and Covington runs down, if Dame gets him the ball, then he's running out here, then you realize he's down here. That gives Robert Covington more time to be able to get off an open three. And if this is Derrick Jones Jr. spotting up here, a lot of times this guy will be very aggressive, and Derrick Jones Jr. can back cut that, be ready to back cut if this guy steps towards Dame. You just want to keep these guys honest and worried about the off-ball guys. If he's down the corner and Dame drives, is the same thing, running this pick and roll. If this guy steps in, have Robert Covington come up here, move up the floor, because this is a shorter pass, so he'll have a little bit more time because of that. But then this small forward is further for him to run here than to run there. It's a little bit longer. It's a shorter pass, so less time before he has to shoot. And the small forward, a lot of times, if he remembered Covington being there, he's going to think run back out this way, and then he's going to be like, oh shoot, he's up here. He's going to have to run up there. It just gives more time to shoot, so to say.
Yep.
What else you got?
Let's talk about the players now. Let's get into it.
All right, I'll get into this. I got the box score right here. I got ESPN muted. Hopefully we don't have any random autoplay off. Here's the issue. If you're new to our post-game streams, this happens almost every post-game stream. I'll open up ESPN, and since whatever audio plays through my headphones you guys hear, that's how we hear Eric. And a lot of times an ad will autoplay and be like loud and just randomly pop onto the stream, and you guys will hear it. So I always got to try and mute and pause the ad before it plays, so you guys don't have to do that.
It's always like the most inappropriate ad.
Yeah, it's like weird. Yeah. ESPN is trying to troll. They're just trying to troll me with that. I hate autoplay ads for that reason alone. But here we go. Starting with the starting lineup, you had CJ, who in 20 minutes dropped 18 points. He was 7 for 16 from the field, which was a little bit better than I thought. 2 for 5 from 3. He had 4 rebounds, had 5 assists. I don't really remember any of his assists, so to say. But he also had 5 turnovers and 5 fouls in 20 minutes, which is not good. He had some really weird plays that you don't normally see from him. He had some really weird turnovers that are just like, I know he's not like he's a combo guard, right? He's not like a point guard, so he does have turnovers and that you're you kind of scratch your head about, like, what was that? But he had some glaringly bad turnovers tonight where it's just like, what are you seeing? But here's the thing. He said he hadn't played 5-on-5 since the playoffs, so 3 months. And he's only had 3 days in training camp. So there's going to be rust in terms of... Yeah, there's going to be... I'll talk about that in a sec. There's going to be some rust in that regard with him making the right reads and that type of stuff, so I'm not going to overreact to that. He did look, like, horrible in the first half, and I tweeted that out. I was like, CJ looks horrible. You know what I mean? But came back in the second half and had some buckets and had some impressive plays, and he looked good in the second half just from a scoring standpoint. The one thing that bothers me is he just looked out of shape and kind of Felton-ish almost, kind of a little hefty, and that, you know, I assume that'll like work itself out once he starts playing a game every other day. But yeah, he definitely looked he looked to be the one guy that was a little hefty, so to say.
This has always been my thing with CJ. So like, obviously, you know, you're out of shape, but like when you're a professional bucket getter like that, like, it's hard to change this mindset, so I understand why it doesn't. But, like, in a game like tonight in the first half when it's obviously not going well for you, like, I just wish he was a little more enthusiastic about making a great pass as he is, like, breaking someone's ankles or, you know, hitting a mid-range step back on someone. So, like,
yeah,
I just wish he would run the offense a little more instead of trying to go one-on-one as much, because we have the team to not have to rely on that unless it's into shot clock situations. So, like, I just wish if he's not feeling it, he would like go away from that a little bit.
Here's the thing with that though. A lot of times when he catches the ball, like the offense is like stagnant already. You know what I mean? And it's like to even create a passing opportunity, he has to break down his guy one-on-one. You know, to try and get past his defender, collapse the defense in order to create a passing lane, you know? So that's the thing is like
but more times than not, he's like doing that to look for himself to score. He's not necessarily doing it to create. So I wish he would just switch his mindset a little bit to be like, okay, I'm going to break this defense down so I can get one of my teammates open versus me getting a shot sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this. There's games where I'm like, dang, CJ didn't pass much, didn't create much for others, and now look at the box score and he'll have like 6 assists. Yeah. So I don't know if it's something that like his passing just gets overlooked or if he just makes like the easiest obvious pass, like a hit ahead on a fast break or whatever, and that's how he gets his assists. It's just, I don't know, man. Like a lot of games, it's like I feel like I personally overlooked some of his playmaking just if you're looking at the box score. So that's the thing is like, dude, it's so hard to gauge his playmaking game in, game out, you know, because a lot of times it's just a lot of like isolation, a lot of him with the ball himself, and you can tell he's just going into scorer mode. So I don't know. He like 20 minutes and 5 assists. I don't know how those assists came, but yeah, I definitely wish he was a little bit more balanced in terms of just like, because he can shake his defender, right? And if he is just a little bit more balanced in terms of making the play for his teammate as well as scoring for himself, it would just make him a better player. So, you know, I think some of his playmaking deficiencies get a little overblown, but I do wish he was a little better in that area.
See, I think in the past, like, if you were watching ESPN tonight, I'm sure were you watching Comcast?
I watched Comcast for like the first half of the quarter, and I was like, you know, I'm going to watch ESPN. We barely get any national televised games anyway, so I'll get my Comcast fix. It's NBC Sports Northwest now, so yeah.
They brought a graphic up about our bench last year being near the bottom of the league in terms of points per game and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So, like, in the past, this is the problem. Like, he's had to kind of take over, or our bench sucks, or he's, like, scoring a lot. But, like, part of the reason for having all these good shooters off the bench now and scorers is to take that pressure off him from having to do that. So something's got to change there to where he realizes he does not have to do that as much. It's still needed at points in the game, and it's still a great weapon to have. And I'm not saying we need to like CJ's trash or we need to trade him or anything like Destrom tried to say tonight. But like, I just think he would be that much more effective when he does isolate and go one-on-one if the defense is kept honest to the point where they don't know if he's going to pass or not. Is all.
Some of it is guys just got to move better as well. Like I feel like if it's a drawn-up set, we move decently. But when it comes to freelance, you know, if a set breaks down and we have to freelance something, guys don't move well. That's always been my opinion on this team. Is like, yeah, we can move well in a set, but when it comes to freelance, guys just kind of stand around. So I think we need to get better at player movement, off-ball player movement, you know, setting screens, you know, like that screen, that pin down off the pick and roll with the two players on the wing. Like, that's an example of that, because a pick and roll likely comes out of freelance, and we should be still moving guys off the ball instead of having them stand. So some of it is just, you know, and maybe we'll see that this year. I'm hopeful, and, you know, it's partly a chemistry thing. But, you know, CJ did hit some shots in the second half, and it wasn't a terrible game. It was a bad first half. Second half he looked fine, you know, and that's the thing. It's like he's the type he's maybe the one player on this team that, I mean, other than a big, he's the one player on this team that like could be a little hefty and a little slower and be fine, just because he doesn't really rely on speed a whole lot to get his buckets. It's more the shiftiness, and he's still shifty. He still has that handle. He still has that scoring package. So,
and Alex G brings up and that's basically what I'm trying to say. He says CJ could utilize his gravity so much better as a passer, and this has been my point all along. If he gets to like the free throw line and he draws two defenders and he steps back and hits a jumper, that's fine. But if you do that and then you pass to the guy that comes up and double teams you or is crowding the paint, and he gets an open dunk or an open 3-point shot, then the next time that guy's going to be a little less hesitant to do that. So then when CJ goes there, he has that much easier of a shot because he's just breaking down his guy, and you can see how much space he can get in a one-on-one situation. So, like, I feel like his efficiency would improve the more he passes too. And yeah, so it'd be nice to have CJ's efficiency approach. Like, I know it's not going to be what Dame had a historic season last year, and I mean, he's a great player, so it's never going to be that high. But if he just got his like true shooting percentage up into the upper 50s instead of like the mid to lower 50s, and had passing too, he might not be averaging the same amount of points. So like, it might look like he's a worse player because he's only averaging 18 points a game or whatever. But if it's on like 58% true shooting percentage efficiency, then he would have I would feel like it'd just be a much better team overall.
He'd have a bigger positive impact on the team, despite the stats suggesting he might not be, right? So that's the thing. And basically, the simplest way to put it is just make the right play more consistently, whether that's a pass or whether that's a shot, you know? Because not to say he doesn't make the right play often or whatever, I'm not saying that. There just are times where it seems like he settles for a tough contested fadeaway step back mid-range shot where the pass might have been the right play and might have gotten our team a higher quality shot, you know, and that'll happen. You know, guys aren't always going to make the right play, obviously, but just definitely want to see more consistency from CJ in that regard. So other than CJ, you had Damian Lillard drop 15. He was 4 for 7 from the field, 3 for 6 from 3, got hot early, did airball a 3, which is weird to see, but you know, I'll just chalk that up to rust and whatnot. Played 22 minutes, dropped 15 and 5. Like, that's Dame. We don't even really have to talk about that, do we? Like, that's just Dame, you know, being Dame and going out there. It didn't even seem like he was trying, and still dropped 15 and 5 in 22 minutes.
He looks ready.
Yeah.
I will say, like, thank you so much for that injury in the playoffs not being serious. Like,
no,
just being
that was scary because we thought at the time like it was bad.
If we would have like had a situation with him this year, like we had with Nurkic last year, man, think of how much more down we'd be on the season right now.
Yeah, that injury looked bad. You know, he strained his MCL. You know, anything MCL, ACL, PCL, anything related to that type of stuff is scary. You know, and on the court, you know, you never want to see Dame come to a jump stop, because that's the thing, is like we've seen a number of guys like Derrick Rose when he tore his ACL in the playoffs against the Sixers back in 2011, I think. He came to the jump stop and then couldn't get off the floor, and it was because he tore his ACL coming to such a hard jump stop and trying to explode out of it. Jonathan Isaac last season did the same thing as well. So, and that's the play that Dame had in the playoffs. He came to a jump stop and tried to explode out of it, and then he comes up, clutches his knee. It looked a lot like the Derrick Rose ACL tear. It looked a lot like the Jonathan Isaac ACL tear. So it was very, very scary. It was just it was an MCL strain. So if it came, not at the end of the season, if it came in the middle of the season, we would have missed him for some games. But thank goodness we got him right now, and we can have some excitement going into the season. So other than Dame, you had Derrick Jones Jr., who was fun to watch tonight, right? 15 points, 5 rebounds. He had an assist, a steal, a block. Shot 6 for 6 from the field in 28 minutes. Shot 2 for 2 from the 3-point line, 1 for 2 from the free throw line. His jump shot doesn't look bad, man. I honestly think he's going to shoot at least like 32, 33%. His form looks so much better than it did a year ago. Okay? His form a year ago, he had such a weird hitch with his shooting elbow where he'd like kind of pop it and like rotate it. His shooting elbow looks a lot cleaner now, and his jump shot form looks a lot better. It's like, because the rhythm's fluid, the release, the follow-through is good. I think it was that elbow hitch that made him a poor shooter, and he's cleaned that up. He shot well in the bubble. He was 2 for 2 from 3 tonight. One of them, didn't want to go in and then did. It barely went in. It just kind of rolled around a ton. But dude, if he can knock down threes on top of his cutting, which I want to talk about in a sec, but if he can knock down threes on top of everything else he provides, he will be a really good player for this team. Because everything else, the finishing ability, the lob target ability, the fast break threat, the defensive ability, the positional versatility, right? All those things are things that this team needs and he brings. So if he can knock down threes and make it so teams can't like leave him when he's spotting up, then that's as good of a pickup as like the guys that I wanted, like a Paul Millsap, a Serge Ibaka, in my opinion. That would be just as good of a pickup as those guys.
And for the people going on about it, this all changed once Olshey laid down the gauntlet of Stotts needing to coach his personnel that he has. So we have apologized about that. We have said we might have been wrong with that.
I didn't apologize for nothing. I'll never apologize for any of my takes.
Not necessarily apologize, but like we said at the time, it was not about Derrick Jones Jr. He's a fine player. I said that right away. That was the first thing that came out of my mouth. Yep. And it has nothing to do with him or his game. He is a good player in the right system, and I did not think we would use him right. So if we do use him right, then it completely changes my mind about it. And once Olshey said that, I got, basically, without saying this, he said, Stotts, I got you like this super athletic player who can play defense. And I got you a Robert Covington who can hit threes and play defense. Like, this is on you now. Like, I got you these players. Like, you need to freaking figure out a way to do your offense and defense to do this. So once he laid down that gauntlet, it made those signings fine, in my opinion. And yes, we went a little crazy the night we signed him or whatever. People are quoting your.
I honestly, okay, bro. Like, this is what sucks, man, because you know me, right? Like, when it comes to any player in the league, man, I know names that are two-way guys that nobody's ever heard of, but I know like what college they went to and stuff like that, and I know their strengths or weaknesses, right? Occasionally I will be wrong about like what a player's good at. I thought Derrick Jones Jr. sucked at defense. I thought he sucked at defense, right? And you corrected me on that stream, all right? And then I came back and said, you know what? I was wrong, right? Which is one more time than anybody else in media has ever admitted they're wrong, right? So, I was wrong. He can play D, right? I thought he couldn't play D before we signed him. So that was part of the reaction was like, we got a guy that can't shoot and can't play D. But no, he can play D. And here's the thing. Like, the thing I said, like, immediately after we signed him was like, why Derrick Jones Jr.? Because he's a terrible fit, Stotts in the past has like just... And maybe some of it's on the players, I guess, but it seems like Stotts has been comfortable having guys like Evan Turner just spot up for three instead of cut. Guys like Maurice Harkless and Al-Farouq Aminu, who should be used as cutters. They're 6'9" and like, they're not like super athletes or anything, but they're fluid and can finish around the rim. Those guys just got stuck in the corner as spot up shooters and missed shots. Harkless and Aminu were okay three-point shooters, but a lot of times they could have cut and got easy layups, and they would just sit in the corner and spot up. So when we got Derrick Jones Jr., that's what I was worried about. But it seems like Derrick Jones Jr. wants to cut, like, every time the opportunity presents itself, which is exciting. Bro, the first bucket of our preseason was a Derrick Jones Jr. cut and a lay-in. right? The second bucket of our preseason was him knocking down the three. So that's the thing. I said this in my Derek Jones Jr. video. If we use him properly, then I think this will be a solid pickup. If he shoots like 33, 34%, at least from three, then no matter how we use him, he'll be a solid pickup. If he does both those things, it'll be a phenomenal pickup. So that's the thing, is like now I'm actually like super optimistic compared to obviously completely different change of tone compared to my initial reaction to that signing. You know, it wasn't, I'll be honest, it wasn't a guy that I wanted in free agency. But given what I'm seeing now, I'm happy with it. I am down. It provides Stotts like he's kind of the antithesis to what we have done in the past couple years in terms of style of play. So it puts pressure on Sauce to diversify his coaching, and it makes it so that we have a different look. And if he cuts consistently and knocks down threes and helps us with our defense, like, yeah, it's a great pickup. So I'm encouraged. I'm excited. He's fun to watch. I want to see him dunk on people. That will be entertaining as hell. Yeah, man, I am encouraged by what I saw tonight, and I'm at this point, I'm on board with the signing. All right, so.
Yeah, see, the thing I'm worried about is, like, we saw the same thing with Layman for a while where, he was cutting and getting lobs like crazy. And then as the season progressed, teams took that away from him and were playing him in a way where he wasn't getting many lobs, if any, most games. And his production went really far down. So, yeah, I hope this isn't the case. Derek Jones Jr. is way better than Mario Hezonja, so I'm not saying that. But, like, we all got excited about and had people in here apologize to Mario Hezonja to you after his first.
Oh, yeah. See, that's completely different, bro.
I know,
okay,
I know.
Yeah, because remember, what was I saying? I was like, guys, he's not good. And I said that literally from the start and didn't change my tune at all. And I had a bunch of people, like, saying, okay, no, Mario looked great in this preseason game. And I'm like, no, okay, he might look good here and there, but he's not a good player, because I had watched Mario Hezonja a little bit more than I had ever watched Derek Jones Jr. And I knew Mario Hezonja wasn't good, right? It's a different thing. Like, for a guy like Derek Jones Jr., like, when I was watching Heat games, I wasn't focused on Derek Jones Jr.'s defense, right? So that's something that you really got to watch for, or you got to get your information from, like, outside sources, which I haven't really done, right? With a guy like Mario Hezonja, you can watch his team play for 5 minutes and he just doesn't have it, right? Because Mario Hezonja is a type, like, he gets the ball and he tries to go like 1-on-3 in transition and flips up a weird like fadeaway floater or whatever, triple teamed with 20 on the shot clock, right? You know what I mean? Like, his issues are glaringly obvious. Like, I knew that Mario Hezonja wasn't going to be it. And I tried telling people from the start, the whole season, right? Completely different thing with Derek Jones Jr. and my initial reaction. So that's the thing. I'm not even going to respond to that, because here's the thing. I don't want it to be, every time I talk about he's doing good, people will be like, oh, bro, you didn't like the signing at first. You hated the signing at first. I don't want, that to be the talk. And Mike, bro, see, and this is the type of stuff I don't want to deal with. He says, oh boy, just admit y'all were wrong and move on. I'm literally admitting that I was wrong about his defense. And I literally said at the time that I was worried about his fit. So I was wrong about his defense. I literally just admitted I was wrong about his defense initially. And the fit concerns were legitimate. And if Stotts uses him right, then it doesn't mean the fit concerns weren't legitimate. It means that Stotts is using him properly, which I said, even on that stream, if Stotts uses him properly, he could be a decent fit here. So that's the thing. He looked good. He looks like he wants to cut, and he was knocking down threes. Hopefully he can shoot 35% from three, because then it's a good pickup. It's a great pickup. And I said that in the video immediately afterwards. So anyway, I'm not going to harp too much on like the opinion thing, and I don't want to harp on that too much this season about like my initial reaction to that. I don't want that to be a talk. I want to analyze this game. You guys know how I feel. I've literally just laid it down and explained it for you guys. So, once he has, I know I'm going to get it every time he does good. There's going to be that one person that's like, bro, you were wrong. Just admit it. Take the L, whatever the hell, there will be that one person, but I'm not going to respond to that like after tonight. I will not go on a rant about it like I've just done.
Let me put it this way. 8 years of Stotts not being able to have any clue how to handle a player like Derek Jones Jr. So when we signed him, yes, we were emotional knowing that for 8 years we've been noticing and telling you guys these things, that a player like that is wasted in Stott's system, and we could be a good playoff offense if we did things that he brings, but we don't do those things. So when we signed him, it was like, why? Like, I felt like we had a situation to sign a player that fit what Stotts was going to do if he kept his same system. So, like I said, the minute Olshey laid down the gauntlet and said Stotts needs to be better this year, basically, that changed everything, because it shows me that Olshey was not happy with Stotts last season, and he was sick of being blamed for the roster when he didn't get the injury excuse like Stotts did. And so he was like, dude, shut up, man. I have given you this roster. It's like 11, 12 players deep. Like, and you need to perform. So,
and Olshey did take some responsibility for not building the roster perfectly, so he took some responsibility, but he also put some of the responsibility on Stotts. And here's the thing. You guys can agree or disagree in regards to Stotts' coaching in the past. That doesn't really matter now if Stotts coaches well. Bro, I think, I've said this last night on stream. I think this will be Stotts' best coaching season during his entire tenure here, because he has all the personnel he needs. In the past there has been some personnel deficiencies. He has all the personnel he needs. He has the pressure on him. Olshey's holding him accountable. That's the thing. That's not a bad thing, okay? Because people respond to pressure, and most of the time, good coaches or decent coaches respond to pressure well and coach better because of it. And I think that's what's going to happen this year. I honestly think Stotts is going to be a solid coach this season. So that's the thing. Whether or not you agree or disagree with us on our opinions on him in the past, that doesn't matter now, because I honestly think he's going to coach decently this season, and I think we're going to run we're going to do a little bit more defensively. We're going to be more creative. We have the defenders where there's no excuse for not being more creative, so I expect him to be more creative in terms of the defensive schemes, and I expect better movement, because, bro, Derrick Jones Jr., you could tell that man wants to cut. That man wants to cut. He wants to get a drop-off pass and dunk the ball on somebody's head. That's awesome. That's exactly what we need. So that's the thing is, you can disagree with us, but I think the whole fan base is in agreement. I think this is going to be the year we finally kind of put some things together that we've been missing in the past, and I'm very excited to see what that brings us in terms of the on-court product.
Yeah. So I'll just sum this whole conversation up by saying Derrick Jones Jr. doesn't fit the system, and that's why we're mad. But if the signing of Derrick Jones Jr. was basically a statement that we are going to change the system, then I love the signing, because we've been begging for the system to be changed.
Exactly.
And if it took signing a player like that and being like, I am giving you this player, you figure it out how to make it work, that is a good thing. And I apologize that I got mad about it, because at the time, like I said, 8 years of data saying that Stotts will not fit this guy into a system well, and that's why we're upset. And so, I apologize to Derrick Jones Jr. I apologize for my going off about it for 4 hours. I thought there were much better fits if we were not going to change our system. But the moment we said we were going to change our system, I believe this is a good thing that we signed a player like that, if the requirement is that the system needs to fit him and not him fit into the system, like we've complained about for years.
Yeah, we'll have to move on. I don't apologize for anything. I was wrong on his defense, but I don't bat 1,000,000,000%, So I'll be wrong every now and then, and I can admit when I'm wrong. Let's move on to Robert Covington. Just there's not much to say about Robert Covington. We know what he's going to bring. He was 3 for 4 from 3. Awesome. I hope he shoots well from 3 this year. Hopefully he shoots a little bit better than last year. And that's to be expected, because a lot of wings do improve their three-point percentage in Portland playing off Dame. So he's going to get great looks. He's going to get better looks than he got tonight. And he was still 3 for 4 tonight. He hit a couple contested shots. He's going to get wide open looks playing next to Dame, CJ Nurkic. And the Derrick Jones Jr. has gravity as a cutter, because he's such a good finisher around the rim and so explosive around the rim. That combination is going to get Robert Covington great three-point looks, and I expect him to shoot a good percentage this year. Provided some good help defense, and, didn't really, wow you, but that's the thing. Robert Covington isn't going to wow you. He's going to do a lot of the little things that don't make you say wow, but really help the team win, and hopefully he's going to knock down shots like he did tonight.
Here is why he was the perfect pickup for the Blazers. He impacts the game tremendously, and half the time you don't even know he's on the court.
Yeah.
And that's, we talk about this all the time with Dame and CJ and stuff. There's certain guys who are not a good fit if they need the ball in their hands to be effective. Like, even if we were given Ben Simmons for free on this team, he might not be as good of a fit as a Robert Covington, because his usage rate needs to be so high to be effective. So, like, a guy like Robert Covington, who is always going to be in the right spots on offense, always going to be in the right spots off ball on defense, and just a reliable guy. He hits his shots when he's open. He knows where he's going to be. He doesn't do anything outside of his skill set. He doesn't try to, like, create and break three guys down off the dribble and stuff like that. It's just a guy you can rely on to be consistent and be a part of a good defensive unit and all that stuff. So I like the fact that we have a really, like, I describe him as like an elite role player, basically. So, and we haven't really had a lot of those. We've had good role players, you know, like an Ed Davis or something, but not someone who can impact both sides of the court the way he can.
He's the definition of being a star in your role, right? Like, he does his role perfectly, man. And here's the thing, like, he had a couple good extra passes that help spark some ball movement or get guys really good shots. He's a smart player, and he can fit into an offense. Like, he's not a guy that's going to break guys down and create shots for others based off his ball handling and whatnot. But he's the type of guy that you can fit into an offense that moves the ball, and he'll make the right pass, and he'll make it pretty quick, because he had a couple passes where he caught the ball and immediately zipped it to the right guy. That's huge, being able to have a wing like that. Like Maurice Harkless, Al-Farouq Aminu, they kind of struggled in that regard sometimes, you know. Having a guy that can make that next pass quickly, decisively, and make the right decision is huge, because I think he's like one of those guys that he's not going to average more than like an assist, you know, 1.5 assists per game or whatnot. He's not going to average more than that, but he can really help your ball movement, though. So, and that's what I noticed tonight. So that's another one of those like underrated little things that he does well that don't really show up in the box score, and a lot of fans probably wouldn't notice.
He was the guy who passed on the first possession to Derek Jones, right? I think as he cut, and he was also the guy who passed up a good look for a three to swing the ball around for a better three. And
it was CJ wide open.
Yeah, it's little stuff like that where he might not even get an assist on the play, but he made a pass which led to another pass to get a guy open. And I just love players like that are smart and play within the offense. And because we saw this with like Bazemore last year, where if he would have played like more like a role player, I think he would have been fine and we wouldn't have had any problems. But he, like, every time he got the ball, he tried to act like he was Michael Jordan and try to take the ball to the hoop and like score and stuff. So like, like you can't have players like that when you have guys like you have CJ, Dame, Melo. You have guys who can score the basketball. You don't need those role players to be all crazy and go with outside of the offense. So like, I'm really excited to see what he does, especially once we have all our guys in a full lineup and all that stuff.
And here's the thing. I hope all of you remember some of the struggles we had last year, some of the little things that were missing, some of the terrible decisions that were made, because that'll help us truly appreciate the little things that a guy like Robert Covington does, the smart decisions that kind of go overlooked in the course of a game, but are crucial to, you know, I mean, a lot of games come down to one or two possessions. So the right decision being made on an offensive possession in the second quarter could legitimately change a loss to a win, right? That's the thing, is like little things matter. They all add up, and they tend to get overlooked because they're little things. And I hope that people remember some of the times when Mario Hezonja and Kent Bazemore got the ball and tried to go like 1-on-2 and try and act like they're Michael Jordan and do too much and make so many plays with like Bazemore like either spotting up from three when he was cold, when he could have cut and probably gotten a layup, and him breaking a three when we probably should have gotten 2 points if he cut, right? You should appreciate Derek Jones Jr. cutting in those situations, because Derek Jones Jr. is the type of player who will cut in those situations. Mario Hezonja, you know, like catching the ball and trying to go one-on-one and trying to do too much with it. That should help you appreciate Robert Covington catching the ball and quickly making the next pass, the right pass, and the right play. So, last season sucked, but there's things to be learned from it, and it can help us appreciate some of the guys we have on the roster now.
Man, I'm also salivating to see that lineup you were talking about, too, just especially on defense.
The Dame, Trent, Derrick Jones Jr., Robert Covington, and Harry Giles lineup. Yeah. Yes, dude, that lineup would be fun.
Do with that, gosh.
Defensively, that should be a really good lineup too, because Harry Giles is good defensively. We'll get to him in a second. Ennis Cantor was the other starter. He had 4 points, 1 for 5 from the field. Like he did have 11 rebounds and 3 assists and a couple blocks and a steal, so he filled up the stat sheet. He had some good defensive plays. He had some defensive possessions where he struggled. That's what you're going to get with Ennis Cantor. You just hope, he can provide some good with the bad, right? And we did run a pick and roll scheme with him in the game where we were hedging picks, which he isn't as good at compared to dropping the big. So that's the thing, is like against some teams, and especially with Ennis Cantor in the lineup, dropping the big on the pick and roll might be the right defensive scheme. It's not where I'm like against using it at all. I just hate it when we use it 100% of the time, even against guys like Steph Curry, who will run off a screen and the big isn't there to help the guard getting screened, and Steph Curry gets a wide open 3-point look. That's the type of position where you need the big to come up and help to take away that 3-point look from a Steph Curry. That's the issue, is we ran it 100% of the time. There will be some situations where it is the optimal scheme to run. In those situations will most likely be when Ennis Cantor is in the game as well, just because he is better at drop scheme compared to hedging pick and rolls, trapping pick and rolls, whatever, compared to our other bigs like Zach Collins, Harry Giles, Yusuf Nurkic, who I think can run any scheme well, in my opinion.
Marcus, just to clarify, we were talking about wanting to see a certain lineup, not saying that lineup is our best lineup or anything like that. We just think that's a fun lineup to see. We weren't saying that should be the starting lineup or anything like that. He was trying to say that you were saying that Giles is better than
that definitely,
but...
that definitely shouldn't be the starting lineup. That would just be like the combination of those guys on the floor. I feel like would be very entertaining and very fun to watch, and it would have the ability to like really make runs if those guys were clicking. And defensively, I think that would be a good lineup. So that definitely shouldn't be the starting lineup. Nurkic is definitely better than Giles. That would just be a fun lineup to see the combination of those players on the court. But Ennis will finish some of the shots he missed tonight. He did miss some bunnies, but
let me just say that he got a few offensive rebounds tonight. We saw Derrick Jones Jr. crashing the boards. He's a really good offensive rebounder. Cantor is an excellent offensive rebounder.
Giles got 4.
Giles getting 0 boards tonight. We're going to be a monster on the offensive boards. And when you have, I mentioned this again, when you have Dame, CJ, Melo, Robert Covington spotting up for 3, you got Trent spotting up for 3. If you get rebounds and kick it out to the shooters, that's when Dame's gotten some of his best looks for 3s on like chaos plays and kickouts and stuff like that. So having those weapons to get you extra possessions in a game is another one of those little things you were talking about that could be the difference between losing a game and winning a game. And Cantor is good at that. He's not a starting level center, but he's not our starting center, so he doesn't have to be. He's going to come in and do his job, and we know what to expect from him. And once again, he's not going to go crazy and play with outside of his skill set or anything like that. So I want to set good picks and get rebounds. That's all I need.
Yeah, I want to tie it real quickly. I want to tie something else into the offensive rebounding point you made. Here's the thing with Damian Lillard shooting deep threes. If he misses, a lot of those rebounds are longer rebounds. Shooting it from so far away, if he misses, like the rebounds are likely, they're not going to be like right around the rim. The longer the rebound is, the longer the ball bounces away from the hoop, the more likely it is to get an offensive rebound. So that's like an underrated little thing about like Dame stretching his range out, is when he does miss, I feel like our chances for getting the offensive rebound are a little bit higher than if he's shooting threes like right at the 3-point line, just because the rebound ends up being longer. So that's just something to tie in with that. Let's go to the bench. Carmelo Anthony was great tonight. 8 for 13, 3 for 3 from the 3-point line, 2 for 2 from the free throw line, 21 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists in 23 minutes. Hopefully this makes him just be like, yeah, I'm coming off the bench and I'm doing this every night, bro. Because, dude, he was phenomenal. And here's the thing. He made jump shots. And there's going to be nights where these jump shots don't fall. but that's okay. On the nights when he's hitting jump shots, you play him 25 minutes, 26 minutes, and he provides you one of the best sparks off the bench in the league when he's hot like he is tonight. Dude, how many players in the NBA can provide what Carmelo, the shot-making ability that Carmelo Anthony showed tonight off the bench? Not many at all. There's probably less than 10 that can do it quite at that level when Carmelo's hot. He might not. I'm not necessarily saying he's a top 10 bench player. I'm not saying he's not, but I'm not saying he is, right? I'm not having that debate. I'm just talking about when he's hot, he provides such an elite shot-making ability that can really give us a spark, especially if our offense is struggling. And tonight, he basically showcased that.
And this is why I've wanted him to embrace at this point of his career a bench role. I feel like he can feast. I mean, he's a good scorer even against elite defenders. So if you're talking about playing against bench guys, I just feel like he's going to have more nights like this where he gets going because he's got some scrub backup on him, and he's going to get that confidence and a big smile and go right at that guy. And sometimes you need that on the bench. Some nights we won't need it. Like I said, we're really deep, so this isn't a slight on him at all. But this goes for every player on our team pretty much. Obviously, Dame, we need to be, playing at a very high level if we're going to go far. But for the most part, we can have off nights from guys. So it's really a great problem to have because we have so many options. So if he doesn't have it some nights, he can still make an impact on the game. Like you mentioned, he had 4 assists? Did you say?
No, 4 rebounds, 2 assists.
2 assists. But I felt like he was making the right reads and stuff and passing well as also. So I like what I see with Melo, and I've wanted him to be that go-to scorer for off the bench on our particular team. But yeah, I like that option almost better than CJ at some points. But yeah, we'll see. If he's having bad games. The other thing is too, I mean, if we limit his minutes, last year we were playing him over 32 minutes a game, so that he was tired at the end of some of those games, and he was still clutch. But if he plays 20 minutes but has super good efficiency, it's the same thing as we talked about with CJ. He might not average 15 points a game. It might be more 12 points a game. But if he's doing it on higher percentages and some of the best efficiency he's had in his career, because he's never really gotten to play against weaker defenders. He's almost entirely his entire career been one of the best scorers in the history of the NBA. So he always gets a ton of defensive attention. So if he's playing against a little weaker competition, and then on top of that, he's getting better shots because our offense has a lot of dynamics to it. And he hasn't really played on a team that has such good players and since early in his career, probably at his first few years with the Nuggets. So I feel like he could average 12 points a game and have his best shooting numbers of his career. And people might think that's a bad thing that his shooting is or his scoring overall. But I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think if everyone's averaging about that with high efficiency, we're going to be impossible to stop.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Our bench is good enough where if teams completely load up on him, we have the players to make them pay. Because here's the issue. If we had a weak bench, then with Carmelo in the game, teams would just load up on him, take him away, and they would be able to do that without getting punished if we had weaker options next to him. But we have, Harry Giles, Ennis Cantor, Rodney Hood once he gets back, Gary Trent Jr. Those guys can all make defenses pay for loading up on Carmelo Anthony. So that will also help make it a little bit easier on Carmelo coming off the bench. The fact that he has starting quality players playing next to him in that bench lineup. I'd say Rodney Hood, if he returns kind of to what he was last year, is a starting caliber player. Gary Trent Jr. is definitely a starting caliber player. And Ennis Cantor's best role is a good big off the bench, and he can be a good big off the bench. Harry Giles, I think, can be one of the best bigs off the bench in the NBA. I mean, we saw how he played tonight. We'll get to him in a second. It'll make it so defenses will basically have to pick their poison if Carmelo's hot. And here's the thing. Here should be the goal this season. It should be to keep Carmelo fresh, and then when he's having a good night like tonight, you extend his minutes a little bit longer and you ride the hot hand. And if he struggles, here's the thing. If he struggles from the field, it's not necessarily a bad thing if we like cut his minutes, because that'll just help keep him fresh and allow us to extend him more the next time he's hot, you know? So if he has a tough night, play him 15 minutes, that's fine. You know, it helps keep him fresh. And then when he's having a hot night, then you can feel comfortable playing him 27, 28 minutes a game, whatever you want. So that's the thing, is like there is the silver lining when he's shooting bad and, you know, maybe cutting his minutes a little bit down because he doesn't necessarily have it on a given night. That'll just allow you to ride the hot hand a little bit more once he is hot. And I think he will, I think he'll do a good job in this role, and I'm excited to see him back in a Blazer uniform this year and see what he does.
And just to add on to that point about the minutes and stuff too, like I have no problem with him being in the game the last couple minutes of a game too, because this guy's proved that he can hit clutch shots. He's proven that the defense has to pay attention to him. So that makes it easier for the other four guys on the court too, even if he's just used as a decoy at times. But I really like him as an outlet for the penetrating guards as a spot up shooter, and I hope we utilize that more.
Yep. One little thing, and I will like touch on this throughout the year. If the offense is clicking, like if everybody's playing well, which there's a stretch where everybody's playing well, it becomes kind of tough for me, like, if Melo's hot as well, because it's like, okay, when he's hot, generally I'm cool with him, like, shooting contested mid-range pull-ups when he's hot, because he can knock him down when he's hot at a pretty decent clip. So, like, I'm cool with that. But if the rest of the offense is hot and Melo's hot, I kind of just wish that we wouldn't necessarily just, like, throw the ball down to Melo and he would settle for, like, a contested mid-range, because a lot of times when the offense is hot and the ball is moving, it could likely end up with Melo having a wide open catch and shoot three, which is a better shot than a contested long two, you know? So even when he's hot, it's like, if the rest of the offense is clicking and moving the ball well, I hope he kind of just plays within that, because he'll get good looks, like catch and shoot threes that are open, instead of, like, having to force a long contested mid-range two. If he's hot and the rest of the offense is struggling and the ball isn't moving and guys can't get things going and we're not getting good shots out of our team-based offense, then give the ball to Melo, and whatever shot he takes, I'm cool with, because he's hot and the rest of the offense is struggling and needs that shot creation punch.
I think that goes along with just the mindset for the whole team, and that's what, like, CJ, what we were talking about too. Like, if the coaching staff is showing them film and being like, guys, look what happens if you're like, let's all be a unit and share the ball. And that goes for everyone on this team. Like, I just feel like if everyone had that mindset to like pass up your shot for a better shot, and that kind of attitude, I feel like Melo could be an excellent passer. I think he could average like 5 assists a game if he really wanted to. That's never been something he's seemingly wanted to do, but I feel like he is a good passer if he wanted to be. Like, I just think it's not ever been something that people have like tried to hit home with him or as a team in general. And I think that's kind of contagious. Like, you saw those possessions where we pass it around and someone gets an open three and they hit it, and that's good for the whole team, because every person touched the ball, so you feel like you're part of it. And we score a three. Like, there's nothing better than possessions like that.
Yeah. Block Boy actually has a good point. He says if everybody's hot with Melo, he will get double teamed and have another hot player wide open. Yeah, that's the thing, is like, if Melo's hot and the rest of the team is hot, teams will likely still double Melo because it's Melo and he's hot. But here's the thing with that. Like, that can spark good ball movement and get us a great shot. In that scenario, Melo shouldn't necessarily be, like, catching the ball and then immediately settling for, like, a step-back fadeaway 16-footer, 17-footer. You know what I mean? He gets the ball, and if they don't double him, maybe try and get, a little better shot. But most likely they will double him, so then he should be, letting the double team come to him, making the right pass out of it, and then if we move the ball, it could come back to Melo, but somebody that's clicking will get a really good shot, and it'll be what's best for our offense.
Yep, completely agree. And even Black Boy says facts. I'm glad we all agree.
Bro, this is weird. I just got goosebumps because we just agreed with Block Boy. That's amazing. Harry Giles had a great game tonight. ESPN was raving about him, just absolutely raving about him. His stat line tonight looks like this. He had 18 points, 14 rebounds, 3 steals, 2 blocks, 1 assist on 8 for 13 shooting from the field. He was 0 for 1 from 3, 2 for 4 from the free throw line. Bro, it's going to be a debate on who the backup center should be because Giles looked far better than Ennis Cantor tonight on both sides of the floor. And here's the thing. Next preseason game, it could be Ennis Cantor looking great and looking better than Giles. You know what I mean? That's the thing. Like, you know, I'm not saying that Giles is necessarily better. Just tonight, he looked far better. Dude, I'm telling you guys, this guy's talented. This is the best flyer that Olshey's ever signed on a minimum contract. How in the world did we go from minimum contract flyers on Nick Stauskas and Mario Hezonja to a minimum contract flyer on Harry Giles? Talk about going from 0 to 100 with it. That's amazing, bro. Tonight he looked phenomenal. Like, he's skilled. He can finish around the rim. He can put the ball on the floor. He's a decent athlete. He can pass the ball. He can knock down a mid-range jump shot. I think, honestly, he could be a decent three-point shooter. He just hasn't really shot him during his career. He was really good defensively. He can hedge well. He's quick-footed as a center, which I think is like his best position probably. He's quick-footed as a center. He rebounded the hell out of the ball tonight. Like, dude, he is one of these guys that what weaknesses does he have when he's playing well? He doesn't really have any. Like, he's good at so many different things. Just what I saw tonight and just how talented he is, how could it be justified keeping him out of the rotation? You know what I mean? Like, if he can play, you know, he's not consistently going to play like this every night because then he would legitimately be like an NBA All-Star, maybe borderline superstar, right? So he's not going to do this every game. Yeah, but if he plays if he plays like close, if he provides what he did tonight, I don't know how you can justify playing an Ennis Cantor over him, bro, because Giles, like, brings so much more to the table and is just better defensively. It's going to be an interesting debate. I will have to put out a video on it near the end of the preseason talking about the center debate. And then you get Zach Collins back and insert him into the equation. Like, dude, he looked great tonight. He looked phenomenal. I'm not shocked necessarily because I know he can do all this stuff. It's just it's going to be a debate as to who the backup center is because Giles is that good and he showcased it tonight.
And he loves our chef, so...
And he gave us a shout out. So shout out Harry Giles, man. Like, bro, what's your takeaway from him tonight, Eric?
So, first of all, let me just mention this. He's on a minimum contract, so we'll have no rights to re-sign him next year.
We'd have to use like the mid-level exception.
The only way to re-sign him is if we use the mid-level exception like we used on Derrick Jones Jr. this year. So if he gets offers for more than, like, I think it'll be about $10 million next year, it's going to be really hard to keep him.
But in that scenario, I'm cool. If he balls out for us and helps us win games and we help him get the next contract, even if it's with a different team, and help him take the next step in his career, that's a win-win for both sides, and I'm happy for that, and I would root him on in his next stop in that scenario.
Yeah. But so I'm not trying to overhype this, but he might be the answer to our double teaming problems in the playoffs. And the reason why I say this is because his best skill set to me is when he catches the ball around the free throw line. And there's so many things he can do. You saw a blow by for a dunk. He just went right by this guy, just drove to the basket. He can pass from there. He can hit the shot if he's left open there. So that little play with Nurk and Dame where, you know, Nurk sets a pick and rolls, and Dame like throws that little underhand bounce pass to him, and Nurk's rolling down the lane. So sometimes Nurk catches the ball there and gets caught between being a little too far from the basket to like go into a layup, or he has to take a couple dribbles compared to like shooting that mid-range jumper, which has gotten a lot better for Nurk, but it hasn't been great his whole entire career shooting from like 15 feet or so. But Giles is like a second point guard, almost like trapped in a center's body. So like he can get the ball, like go around someone and lay it in or dunk it. He can pass to the open guy. He can swing it from there. So I think the only problem is I didn't get enough of this tonight to determine how good of a screen setter he is. So Nurk and Cantor set amazing picks, so that might be what sets
Very
them
underrated
apart.
thing. Yeah.
But if Giles sets good picks and can get the ball off those rolls when his man double teams Dame and he brings the weak side defender to him in the middle of the paint, and he's got a Derek Jones Jr. cutting down the side and he could just pass it off to him, or like he's got Rocco spotting up in the other corner for three and CJ somewhere at the top of the key spotting up for three. Like, how do you stop that? Like, I don't know how you do that. So, like, if we utilize him properly, I think he could provide one of the answers to our problems that we've been seeing all along.
Yeah, that would be huge.
And I know that's like crazy because he's on a minimum contract and stuff like that. But
it's just his skill set, and that's the thing. It's not based off of like just this game. Like he showcased the skill set that I told you guys he had. You know, if you go back watch my Hero Giles video, like I talked about these different skills that he has. The thing is, tonight, dude, he played so decisively in a good way. Like he caught the ball and made quick decisions, and oftentimes they were the right decision. And honestly, here's the thing. If you catch the ball in that situation that you're talking about around the free throw line, sometimes it's not 100% about making the right decision. It's just about making a quick decision and being decisive, right? You know, because if you make a decisive drive to the rim, even if somebody's open, if you make a quick, hard, decisive drive to the rim, you can get fouled or you could get a bucket. Or if you make the quick pass, even if you might have had an open shot, that quick pass, that decisive pass, might get a decent shot, or might get a better shot compared to if you catch the ball in the middle, don't know what to do, and then wait and then make that pass, and that guy's already guarded. So that's the thing. A lot of times it's just about being decisive, and that's what I noticed tonight with him working around that area of the floor. Is he was very decisive with his decision making, and it just has me excited, dude. I don't know how this guy is not going to be in the rotation this year, even with Collins back. Like at this point, dude, this guy's skill set, it provides some consistency with Nurkic, because Nurkic can cast the ball and handle a little bit, you know, nowhere near as well as Giles, but he's not going to dribble the ball up to his foot. You don't want Collins ever dribbling the ball up the court ever, but like Nurkic can do it, and Giles could definitely do that. Like Giles provides some consistency in terms of like the way they work around the elbow area, the way they can pass the ball, the way they can hit that mid-range shot. I want to see how many threes Nurkic shoots this year. Maybe Nurkic stretches out to there, but Giles has that ability as well. So provide some consistency. So if you don't have Nurkic in the game, if Nurkic is in foul trouble, or, you know, if you're just with the bench unit, you can still play the same style of ball, and you can still run things through the center the same way with Harry Giles on the court as you do with a Yusuf Nurkic. So that's good to be able to have that consistency with that skill set, because that skill set is pretty rare when it comes to centers.
And for the record, I'm not saying that he's going to be better than Nurk or more perfect in that scenario than Nurk is. But Nurk, I feel like, because we saw this, the comments from Stotts, like, oh, Nurkic just doesn't know how to adjust to the pick and roll defense in the playoffs or whatever. Well, it's like, no, because the way the Lakers, for example, were playing defense on the pick and rolls, it wasn't working the way we normally do it. But I feel like with Giles, it would. Compared to Nurk, you can use him in the playoffs. It's not like he's unplayable in the playoffs. You just have to run the offense through him in a different way than just straight pick and roll. And so it would be nice to have a guy where you can still run pick and roll, which obviously Dame's elite at, but also, you know, you have other options. And that's what we've talked about for years, is having options, being less predictable on offense. So like that allows us to still run our normal stuff that hasn't worked in the playoffs the last couple of years, and maybe make Dame a little more closer to his regular season numbers than his playoff numbers. And then on top of that, you know, providing options to have different sets and multiple sets that you run throughout a game instead of just running the same stuff you've ran all season.
Yep, 100% agree. So other than Giles, who I'm just super excited to have in a Blazer uniform, Gary Trent Jr., he had 18 points today. He had 3 rebounds, 2 assists, had a steal, shot 6 for 13 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3. This Like, he played good tonight, but this was like an average game for him. That's the thing, which is like, I mean that in a good way. This is what I expect him to do night in, night out to provide this level of production. He is a dark horse pick for not rookie of the year. He is a dark horse pick for sixth man of the year. Because he should be getting at least 24, 25 minutes per game. At this point, with as good of our bench as our bench is, consistently on a night in, night out basis, I think he is our best bench player. I know some people will probably disagree with that. You're entitled to your opinion. But I think just what he does on both ends of the court and the confidence he plays with, and I think he's going to be a consistent player this year. Like, I think he's our best bench player. He should be playing at least 25, 26 minutes per game. And, I mean, tonight, 28 minutes, 18 points, right? He is a guy that I could see averaging, like, 14 points per game this year on very efficient numbers and providing elite defense. That is, dude, that is, like, that could potentially make him the best bench guard in the entire NBA. Because, like, yeah, Lou Williams has, like, playmaking ability and can score the ball, but he's kind of regressing, and he doesn't have anywhere near the defensive ability that Gary Trent Jr. does, right? Like, that... I'm so excited to watch him this year, man, and I think, like, just seeing him tonight come out, hit some threes, play with just a ton of confidence. I love the confidence he plays with. We know what he's going to bring defensively. Like, this is what I expect every night Gary Trent Jr. steps on the floor.
Yeah, for sure. And, dude, if he's open, it's automatic.
Yeah.
It's absolutely automatic. And that's why I hope we find creative ways to get him open shots. We saw that 2 years ago with Seth Curry shooting 45% on the season. And, he'd hit his first three, and then he wouldn't get a three-point shot. And he'd just be standing there with a guy on him, and we didn't run him off, like, off-ball picks and stuff like that. So I hope that we recognize how good of a three-point shooter is and get him some open shots throughout instead of just, like, in the flow of the offense, actually run some plays to get him open. And you saw in the first half, at least, he was hitting that little pull-up mid-range jumper. If he starts hitting that, look out, man, because, like, if he can – not only hit threes, but then, if the guy closes out hard on him, put it on the dribble, take a couple dribbles inside the three-point line and hit that shot consistently too. He's not the greatest, like, driving to the rim in that situation, but if he could at least hit from two different levels, both the mid-range and the three-point line, he's going to be a really good player.
Yep, I agree. And I think he's going to be a little bit better off, like, in terms of handling the ball. I feel like that's probably something he really worked on. We didn't really get to see it showcase much tonight, but he did have a play where he pushed it in transition and just looked a little bit more comfortable dribbling the ball. So I think that's kind of the next evolution of his game is, like, the off-the-dribble stuff. Because, bro, like, if he can become a player that can, like, efficiently and consistently create his own shot off the dribble, as well as on top of everything he does, that could be an all-star quality player. Like, you talk about 3-and-D guys. You talk about a guy like Clay, the way he shoots. Obviously, Gary Trent Jr. isn't, like, that great of a shooter. Like, Gary Trent Jr. is a really good shooter, but the defense ability with the three-point shooting ability, if you combine that with, like, being able to do some stuff off the dribble, don't you think that's, like, at least a fringe all-star quality player? At least.
Worst case, we're talking about him like we do with Robert Covington, where he's, like, an elite 3-and-D role player.
Yeah. But I mean, like, Robert Covington isn't, like, the volume shooter that Gary Trent Jr. is. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't have, like, which isn't a bad thing necessarily because he plays his role perfectly, but he doesn't have the scorer's mentality that Gary Trent Jr. does with that shot, And Gary Trent Jr. can already do more off the dribble, is much more comfortable in the mid-range. Robert Covington doesn't really utilize that area of the floor as a scorer. So he already, is kind of past that. His ceiling might, the dude's, how old is he right now? 22 years old?
Something like that, yeah.
Let me look that up, man, because it's crazy. Gary Trent Jr. age. He's not even 22 yet. He's 21 years old. His ceiling is an all-star caliber player, which is insane, man. I did not expect him to develop this well, this fast. And his ceiling at this point is definitely an all-star caliber player. Because, bro, he's 21 years old, man. He's 21 years old. Just think about what he's going to be doing when he's 26. Because he has the work ethic to be an all-star, like, caliber player. Like, he has an all-star caliber work ethic. Neil Olshey said he was the guy working harder than anybody. Like, he is so driven, has the mindset, has the confidence, has the work ethic, already is just a phenomenal shooter, already an efficient player, already a really, really good defender, and only 21 years old. Combined with all that, like, his ceiling is extremely high. We're in good hands with Dame's decline, because you'll have guys like stepping up. Gary Trent Jr. Maybe if we keep Harry Giles around long term, maybe Harry Giles. Nurkic is pretty young. Like, I think just Gary Trent Jr. changes our window and like how good we will be like 5 years from now, assuming we keep him. Because I think we definitely should. And yeah, just I don't know, man. I love Gary Trent Jr. Which is just crazy because honestly, his first year in the league, I was kind of on him, and a lot of people were. It wasn't just me. A lot of people were like And then that breakout last year wasn't a fluke. It's just a sign of more things to come.
Mm-hmm. And Olshey said this in one of his media sessions where I guess Trent's just stayed in Portland and worked out at the facility like all offseason the last couple of years. And you love to see that kind of work ethic and stuff like that. So the sky's the limit for him if he keeps working that hard.
Yeah, let's touch on the other three players that saw minutes tonight before we wrap up this stream. CJ Elebee played 29 minutes, which was much more than I expected him to play, and he actually had some flashes of good defense, right? Here's what I'm looking for with this kid. I want to see him hit threes, and I want to see him defend well. He's not going to be a guy that really does anything off the dribble. So, like, when he tries to do stuff off the dribble and he looks bad, like, I'm not going to be like, oh my goodness, what in the world are we doing, right? Because, like, if he ever becomes an NBA role player, he's not going to be a guy that's doing that given his role, right? That's not going to be his role. So, like, in the preseason, yeah, I assume, he's playing 29 minutes. He's going to try and, like, do stuff off the dribble and see what he can do off the dribble against this level of talent, If he fails at that, I'm not worried about that, because here's the thing. He projects as a guy that can knock down threes and hopefully a guy that can defend. And he had some flashes of decent defense tonight. He was 0 for 4 from 3. I expected his shot to look a little better. He had some bad misses, most of them short. So maybe he just has to adjust to a longer three-point line. But defensively, he was a little bit better than I expected. He had some flashes of decent play on that end.
Yeah, this is a guy who's not going to play at all this year unless it's in blowout situations. I am a little concerned about if Hood has to sit out several games or in back-to-backs and, we have one of our bigs down and, Collins is still out. All of a sudden our depth looks a little less, and I'm going to start to wonder why we don't have a couple better options than Elebee and Blevins on the end of our bench.
Yeah, but here's the thing with that.
Hopefully that doesn't matter this year.
At that point, Gary Trent Jr. becomes the backup 3 behind Gary Trent Jr. and you play Anthony instead. You know what I mean? Anthony is like a backup guard. Because right now, basically, Gary Trent Jr. is the backup guard. I think they're going to stagger Dame and CJ, leaving about at least 25 minutes per game open at the backup 2 for Gary Trent Jr. I think that's kind of his role. But that's the thing. That's what's nice, having guys that can play multiple positions, is if guys goes down, we can slide guys over. Honestly, like, if worse comes to worse, you play Melo with the 3 because we have the big depth, even if a big gets hurt, we still have the big depth once Collins comes back. So that's the thing. Like, if things really hit the fan, then you play Melo with the backup 3 instead of like putting Elebee in the game. So I don't think we'll ever have to rely on him. Even if we have 3 injuries, I don't think it's going to be something where he has to see the floor. And Nasir Little as well. We keep forgetting about him because he's barely played. So
for the people who say depth and injuries are an issue for every team, or every team has injuries or would have that problem if they had several injuries, the difference is Portland could have up to 17 guys. They're only choosing to have 15. And they also could have signed 2 players to their 2-way contracts. They still have one open one that they are not using. They could have signed 2 players that actually could step in emergencies. But
like a Jalen Horde.
Yeah, like we saw this in the bubble where, all of a sudden we had 5 guys hurt, and I know our depth was a lot worse, but like it's kind of puzzling to me that we didn't, like, we're not accounting for that kind of situation to happen again. I realize our team is so deep that hopefully we don't ever have this problem throughout the season, but between, health issues and injury issues, I'm just surprised that they're not using that second 2-way spot to bring in just another body to have to practice, even if you have a few guys down. Because there was times in the bubbles where we didn't even have enough guys. Like we were on questionable whether we even had enough active guys to have a legal roster to play a game, let alone like practice 5-on-5 and stuff like that. Yeah. So I hope that doesn't become a problem. But
5 guys would have to be out for him to see the floor.
Yeah.
5 guys, so I don't think it's something where he's going to have to see the floor. But it's definitely something we have to account for, which I think we did because we have a super deep lineup.
Yeah.
Anthony Simon.
I'm just looking for him to, not be a complete screw up when he's out there.
Yeah.
CJ Elebee, that is.
Yep. So Anthony Simons played 9 minutes. I don't know why we didn't see him in the second half. Did he get hurt? Was there anything?
Sore hamstring. He stayed in the locker room the second half.
Okay. I mean, he played 9. Yeah, he played 9 minutes. Didn't really do a whole lot. Was 1 for 3 from 3. One of them got blocked near the end of a shot clock. So whatever. Like, had an assist. Didn't really make any mistakes. Didn't really do too much. I will say this, though. What did I always say was the number one issue with his jump shot? Do you remember?
It's too low or flat?
Too flat. He would, like... The ball would hit the rim hard. It'd be too flat. He just kind of, like, threw it flat at the rim. It was kind of a line drive. The 3 he made today had more arc than any jump shot I've ever seen him shoot in his life. That 3 had more arc than any other NBA jump shot he's shot. Would you agree with that?
I don't know about any jumper, but yeah, it had good arc on it.
I mean, yeah, maybe there's one where he like threw it to the sky. I don't know. But like, dude, okay. In his preseason workout tapes, it seemed like his shot had a little bit more arc on it. And I've always been saying he needs a little bit more arc. And the 3 he hit had good arc on it. And if you notice, it like hit the rim, but it still went in because it was going down at a good angle. Whereas like before, he's throwing line drives and it's hit the rim and it's popping out. Or it's, hitting the front of the rim. It's not getting over the front of the rim. So that's something that's kind of encouraging. That's basically the only takeaway I had from Anthony Simons tonight was that he also had a good defensive possession in which he got scored on, but it was a great defensive possession on Corey Joseph, where Corey Joseph hit like a fadeaway, almost falling down, one-legged Dirk, like 15-footer. If Corey Joseph, and it hit here's the thing, it hit the front of the rim and then it went in. Yeah. So it's not even like he normally made it, right? If Corey Joseph hits that shot, like, okay, that was great defense on that possession. So that's the thing. It's not necessarily like... For this team this year, they might play great defense and still might get scored on. In that case, okay, good. We did everything we could do to stop them. They still scored. That'll happen. It's the NBA. With a guy like Anthony, especially just because I want to see development on that end, he looked really good on that defensive possession. He looks a little stronger, so I'm hopeful that he will see some improvement on that end this year.
Yeah, and this is why I was so disappointed that he got hurt because we talked about this on our show previewing the game last night that a guy like him, and now Nas is out right now too. So those guys needed preseason if they had any chance of cracking the rotation. Now they're gonna have a tough time even getting a shot for minutes, let alone getting a spot in the rotation. So I mean, it's a good problem to have guys who are so good but they don't even get to play or whatever. I'm not saying those guys are good. I'm just saying, like, if you have multiple guys that deserve minutes. But, yeah, I was really disappointed because the second half, you could tell he would have played most of the second half if he was healthy, and we would have gotten a really good extended look on some of the changes he made. I just felt like it wasn't enough time to see anything for sure. But I thought his defense, he was fighting through screens a little better than he normally does. Like you said, he had a couple of good defensive possessions. Not quite the sieve he has been in the past, but yeah. But yeah, I just wish we could see more of him in these games like this where he would get 20, 30 minutes.
Yep. The only other guy that played was Blevins. I'm not even going to go into him. He's not an NBA player, caliber player. Like, I don't know. He didn't make a layup today. Cool. Like, great. He's basically on a 2-way contract because he's Dave's cousin.
Yeah.
That's it, and hopefully we never have to rely on him. That's my opinion. Not to be negative. I mean, congrats, dudes in the NBA. It's cool. Like, he can obviously play a little bit, Obviously, compared to all of us, he would probably dominate us in a pickup game, right? But the dude isn't, I don't think he's an NBA caliber. So, like, Maybe he shows me I'm wrong in the next 3 preseason games. Maybe not. He's it's not a big deal whatever he does in the preseason because we shouldn't rely on him at any point.
Yep.
So that's a wrap up of every player that played tonight. We are going to wrap up this post game show. For those of you who, unless you want to touch on something else.
We mentioned Chunky earlier. Man, I didn't even recognize Jabari Parker at first. I was like, who was that? Dude,
I didn't pay enough attention. Was he, did he put on the pounds?
He looked like he was like an overweight center or something. Like, I'm trying to describe who he looked like, but I was like...
Caleb Swanigan?
Yeah, not quite that bad, but like... At first, I was like, who did they get to play backup center or whatever? And then I was like, wait, that's Jabari Parker when they showed his face. And then, that dude, that was not good.
I mean, he would probably be a completely different player if he never tore his ACLs. It just seems like, you know, those injuries have compounded into just... I mean, he wasn't that bad last year. I don't know. But, yeah, definitely gotta lose the pounds. And I think it probably hurt. You know, this pandemic probably made it harder for guys to, like, get in, like they can't get into their practice facility for a while, you know, and all that type of issues. So you'll have some guys like that, and it might not even necessarily be... you could still get into a gym, though. Most likely you're an NBA player who's making millions of dollars. Like, I mean, come on.
I also thought... I've never been super high on De'Aaron Fox. I didn't think he looked good. His shot does not look good either. But, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. He's just too streaky, but that was not his like forte coming into the league. He had a good second year shooting the 3-ball. I think he was like 37%, and then regressed last year. So that'll definitely be like a big area of importance for him developing. It was also cool to see Tyrese Halliburton play because that's maybe my favorite rookie from the draft.
So Griffin says, I don't know about y'all, but I'm not cool with an 8 seed and a first round exit. Well,
I don't think anybody
good news,
is.
Griffin. That's not going to happen this year, so you're good.
Yeah, hopefully it's not a 3 seed and a first round exit. Yeah, if we don't make it out of the first round, this season's a failure. Honestly, the goal should be to win a championship. I don't care how much of a contender you guys think we are. The goal should be to win a championship. We have a good enough roster to like have aspirations of making a run, at least like how the Miami Heat did last season. I don't think their roster last season is any better than ours this year. I don't think so whatsoever. So that's the thing. Like, our goal should be to truly contend, and maybe that's a more realistic goal this year than any year in Dame's career outside of the LaMarcus Aldridge era. So anyway, we're gonna wrap up the stream. If you guys are new to us, this is our second streaming channel. We do have a main channel where we mostly upload videos. We've uploaded 8 so far this month. We've been churning out the content like crazy. And our post-game streams during the regular season will work where we kind of analyze the game for like an hour or so over on the main channel, and then if we want to stream some more, we might come over here to the second channel. You guys will know more about how that'll work when I release an announcement video for this upcoming season and the content we'll be doing. But if you want to subscribe to our main channel, there is the link in chat. It's also in the video description, and that's where we upload videos as well. So I assume there's probably some new people to us that are tuning in for the first time. Thank you guys for watching. This stream literally was better than any of our post-game streams last year, and it's the first game of the preseason. It's absolutely insane how well everything's been going in terms of the platform and the channel. And I appreciate you guys tuning in and talking Blazer basketball with us. Sorry we didn't get to your questions. We will be streaming again after the preseason game on Sunday, and we'll try and get to more of your questions. I know we kind of didn't really do that tonight. The analysis was a little bit long, but it's the first preseason game, so of course the analysis is going to be pretty in-depth. So next stream, we will definitely take a lot more of your questions on different things. Also, we release mailbag videos each week over on that main channel. So if you go to the last mailbag video posted and leave a question there, we will answer it in the next mailbag video, which will be done by you. Me and Eric switch off each week. Is that I forget who has it.
I did the last one, but if you want me
okay,
to
so no,
other
videos,
I'm fine with that too.
Nah, I got it. It's the easiest video to make. So so I'll have it next week, and then Eric will have it the week after. So if we didn't answer your question on the stream tonight, you can go leave a question on that mailbag video that was posted a few days ago, or hit us up on Twitter or whatnot. Our Twitter handles are at Tory Jones YT. I'll post them in the live chat for you guys. Here are our Twitter handles. I'm at Tory Jones YT. Eric is at HoopsJock, and the channel is at Blazers Uprise YT. So if you guys want to go follow us on Twitter, we greatly appreciate it. I'm trying to get 1,000 over there, so go leave a follow. And with that, that's a wrap for the stream. Thank you guys for an awesome post-game stream. Very excited for Blazer basketball this season. Glad it's finally back. And we will have the post-game stream on Sunday right after the game right here on Blazers Uprise Live. Until then, hope you guys have a good rest of your night and a good weekend ahead. Until next time, peace out.